Similarly to many aspects of life, art has gone through many different revolutions and movements to become what it is today. The effects of these artistic movements may not be as noticeable as more social movements such as the Tea Party movement or the women's suffrage movement. However, they still have a large impact on our lives. Art greatly affects the way in which we see the world. It has the ability to influence our short-term and long-term perspective of the things around us, how humans connect to each other, and how we express our ideas. Expressionism, specifically, is an artistic movement that altered the way art was made when it first began gaining popularity in the early 20th century. Expressionism originated in Germany around the time of the First World War. There are many artists that contributed to this movement, but Emil Nolde quickly became one of the leading expressionist painters in Germany. Poppies and Roses by Emil Nolde is a historically and stylistically significant painting that demonstrated Nolde's early contributions to German expressionism. With the loss of this painting, we lose part of the voice that influenced the Die Brücke and one of the earliest examples of expressionism in the world. Emil Nolde was born Hans Emil Hansen in the village of Nolde. He grew up on a farm with 5 other siblings and attended a one-room village school. Emil first began painting at the age of 8, but his father did not support his passion and wanted Emil to become a farmer. Emil eventually worked as a woodcarver and attended classes at the School of Applied Arts. While at the school, he secretly attended the life drawing class despite his father's wishes. After moving to Berlin, he had a few odd jobs before being employed at the Industry and Applied Arts Museum in St. Gallen as a teacher of mechanical drawing. Emil painted his first watercolor landscapes while working there and was allowed to display them in exhibits in the St. Gallen Kursenstein. He first began to make money after selling depictions of the Alpine peaks in large editions called mounted postcards. These sold very well, and he was able to resign from his job as a teacher and work as a freelance painter. Emil was rejected from the Munich Arts Academy, but attended the private painting school of Friedrich Fröhr in Munich, and after a year transferred to Adolf Holzow School in Dachau. He then began to travel, studying in various parts of Europe. During his time in the fishing village Lindenstrand, he meets the woman Ada, who he later marries. In 1906, he was invited to join the Die Brücke and accepted. He later withdrew from the Die Brücke in 1907.
The Die Brücke was a group whose aim was to revolutionize art by rejecting academic traditions. The Die Brücke was founded by Ernst Ludwig Kirchner, Fritz Bleidl, Erich Heckel, and Karl Schmidt-Rütteluf, 4 students of architecture at the Technical University of Dresden. They worked very closely to search for free artistic expression. Their early work showed the stimulus of Neo-Impressionism and Art Nouveau. When Emil Nolde, Max Perstein, and the Swiss painter Kuno Ami joined the group, they attracted more public interest in their first exhibitions. The group became more established and attracted new members. With the now established group, Ernst Kirchner wrote down the mission in wood. Believing in development in a new generation of those who create and those who enjoy, we call together the youth of today. And as a youth which bears the future, we aim to create space to live and work, as opposition to the well-established older powers. Everyone who reproduces, directly and without illusion, whatever he senses the urge to create belongs to us. After his brief involvement with Die Brücke, Nolde and his wife, Ada, went to the town of Siebel. Nolde was briefly involved with the artistic groups New Successions and Der Blaue Reiter, the Blue Rider. It was also at this time that Nolde focused on the religious landscapes and the flower paintings for which he became most famous for. While in Berlin in 1912, Emil painted the 9-part Life of Christ, one of his most famous works of art, which would later become a central part of the degenerate art exhibit. Emil Nolde became a member of the Nazi Party in 1934. He had a lot of national pride for his homeland of Germany and supported the Third Reich because they promised to revitalize and restore German culture. He was eventually rejected by the Nazi Party because of his art, which was considered degenerate. Even after this rejection, Emil Nolde continued to support the Nazi Party and didn't fight their harsh treatment of his work because he felt they were helping the country. The Degenerate Art exhibition was organized by the Nazi Party and was a way for Hitler to shame art and artists he felt were destroying German culture. Degenerate art was defined as work that insult German feeling or destroy or confuse natural form or simply reveal an absence of adequate manual and artistic skill. Even though Nolde's art often displays the countryside and people of Germany in his work, Hitler still considered Nolde's art impure. Around 1,052 paintings of Nolde's were confiscated from German museums and art galleries, and around 26 of his paintings were exhibited in Munich. While Nazis stole thousands of works of art, Nolde's 1,052 paintings is the largest number from a single artist. Since Emil Nolde did have ties with the Nazi Party, some members disagreed with the way he was treated. Some members believed he was treated too harshly, and this disagreement led to issues with Nazi leadership. While some may believe that Nolde's involvement with the Nazis would exempt him from such harsh treatment, the opposite is actually true. Since Nolde was a member and he didn't meet Nazi standards, he was treated especially severely and was forced underground. He was under close government scrutiny. He was forbidden to paint. His Berlin studio was closed, and any of his own works he had were confiscated by the government and most likely destroyed. Even though he was forbidden to create art, Nolde began to secretly create over 1,300 new paintings, using watercolors instead of oils, because the smell of oils was easier to detect. The paintings created during this time are referred to as unpainted pictures, which were more than 1,300 small watercolor paintings. Nolde was in his 70s at this time, and mostly continued to work secretly because he realized that he didn't really have any time to waste when it came to completing paintings that could be his crowning achievements. In 1944, Emil Nolde's studio in Berlin was bombed, and many of his friends' works and his own are destroyed. In 1945, his paintings in storage in Toppitz are destroyed in a fire.
After the war, Emil Nolde received numerous honors. He was awarded the title Professor, the Graphics Prize at the 25th Venice Biennale, and the Order pour le Mérite. He managed to create more than 100 additional paintings, many of them watercolors. He continued to paint only watercolors until 1955. He died at his home in Cibo on April 13, 1956.
Poppies and Roses, along with many other Nolde works, were bought by the art collector Otto Nathan Deutsch. It was in his possession until Nazi persecution caused his business to close and his family to be in danger. Otto and his family decided to flee from Frankfurt to Amsterdam, and they packed up their belongings to be sent to Amsterdam. Among their belongings was the family's complete art collection, including Poppies and Roses. Otto had compiled a list of all his belongings, which the Nazis got a hold of and used to select the objects they wanted. The family's belongings never made it to Amsterdam, and Otto and his wife died during the war. With Otto and his wife gone, and the list in Nazi possession, the only two sources of what was actually lost were gone. Believing the items were destroyed, no one made the effort to search for the missing belongings. After the war, most of the Deutsch family's belongings had disappeared, and they were told that much of it had been destroyed during the bombing raids. Later, the West German public authorities granted the family's heirs full compensation for the lost artwork. In the late 60s, Moderna Musette in Stockholm bought one of the Nolde paintings that had previously belonged to the Deutsch family at an auction in Switzerland. The heirs were notified by the Nolde Foundation in Sibyl about the location of the Nolde painting. No action to reclaim the painting was made until 2002, when a member of the Deutsch family addressed a letter to the museum asking for more information about the transaction and for a solution. In 2003, the lawyer representing the heirs sent a request to the Moderna Musette to have the painting returned to them. The Moderna Musette was not permitted to make decisions, so the issue was brought to the attention of the Swedish government. The government then instructed the Moderna Musette to resolve the dispute concerning the painting Blumengarten by Emil Nolde, to come to a settlement with the heirs of Otto Nathan Deutsch. The Moderna Musette publicly announced that they would return the painting to the heirs, but failed to do so. This caused one of the heirs to send a letter to the Swedish culture minister and request her help in the negotiations. The issue was mentioned during the Holocaust-era Assets Conference in Prague in June 2009, which eventually led to the parties reaching a settlement in September 2009, bringing their 7-year dispute to an end. The settlement allowed the heirs to sell the painting to an undisclosed third party and allowed a 5-year loan of the painting to the Moderna Musette in Stockholm. It is not known how the painting came into the possession of the auctioneer. The fact that this Nolde painting still exists makes it clear that not all and possibly none of the Deutsch goods were destroyed in the bombing raids during the war. The Deutsch heirs are now seeking more than a dozen paintings that were packed in Frankfurt but never arrived in Amsterdam. Emil Nolde was a revolutionary artist who helped inspire our current idea of modern art. He helped normalize art that went outside the traditional style and narrative. Poppies and Roses has significance in the art world because it shows Nolde's early contributions to German Expressionism. It also has historical importance and stylistic importance as an early example of a new style of painting. Because of its artistic significance, people are still looking for it today. This is evident because while doing research on the painting, we found an auction website that claims to have the original painting. The price for it isn't disclosed, and it's likely a copy, but just the fact that people are still trying to get this painting shows its lasting significance. Poppies and Roses also represents part of Nolde's journey to become a leader in the Expressionist movement. It isn't Expressionism at its peak, but it is Expressionism in its earliest stages. With it still missing, we are missing a piece of the puzzle that helped form our modern idea of Expressionism. The absence of Poppies and Roses affects our lives in other ways as well. Specifically, it affects the lives of the Dutch heirs and their connection to their family and their family life before the war. Otto and his wife didn't live to see the end of the war, and most of their belongings were taken or destroyed. So for the heirs, their art collection is one of the last connections they have to part of their family and part of their own history. Emil Nolde dedicated his life to his art, and because of his passion created many works that still inspire us today. Poppies and Roses is one of those works, and its absence leaves Emil's story, the story of Expressionism, and the heirs of Dutch's story incomplete.